I'm Jessica Jensen. I'm the CMO of LinkedIn, and you're watching the best place for marketing and ads news, breaking and entering.
It's Thursday, February 19th. Welcome to the Breaking and Entering Show, marketing's weekly news show. Gino, vibe check. How you doing?
Feeling good, Jack. Ready for the show. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You got this sinus infection thing going, but I think we're going to work past it, and we'll be good. Are you going to be good?
Flu game.
Our top story, Gino, frame mogging, Looksmaxxing, live streaming, and what the hell does this all mean? Clavicular is a 20-year-old from New Jersey who garners millions of views daily from live streams that are, at best, wildly problematic. It's raised a lot of questions around the future of entertainment, social media platforms and their involvement in getting involved with live streamers, and then culture at large. Clavicular, the live streams have taken over the internet, and we're going to seek the answers to a lot of these questions with our next guest, Adam Faze. Gino. He joins the show with us. He makes TV shows for the internet. He's the producer behind viral shows like Boy Room and Keep the Meter Running, and he recently worked on iShowSpeed's live stream tour across America. He's here to talk with us about Looksmaxxing, around culture, around the future of entertainment, and what marketers can learn from this. Without further ado, let's bring in Adam Faze. It's Clavicular's world. It's a live stream world. We're just living in it. Adam Faze joins the show. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
Doing great.
When we think about like the attention and the lack of monoculture moments, if Jack and I live together, we work together, we do everything together, but sometimes our algorithms are different. As similar as we are, I might miss some things that he's seeing, and vice versa as well. But there are these few things that come up kind of above the water, above the line here, like the Looksmaxxing stuff that we're seeing all over the place here. Can you speak to like the differences, the nuances, the importance of understanding different algorithms, and then how some things kind of rise above?
Do we need to back up at all for anyone watching about what Looksmaxxing is? Or?
I was literally gonna be like, Adam, before we get into that, I mean, there's people that maybe don't know. I want to hear your take on this. Like, explain to everyone the phenomenon that has unfolded in the last 2 weeks. Looksmaxxing, frame mogging, clavicular. Just like, what's your take on it?
Look. Case in point to like the feed that you're on. Like, I had been watching this clavicular kid for the last 4 months, and I think it really just depends on what point does it break into your side of the feed. But there's this 20-year-old kid named Clavicular. He's a figure in the Looksmaxxing community. It's a community of men who want to make themselves as attractive as humanly possible. They think that the ultimate goal in life is to make yourself attractive because your life will be better as a result. Now, Clavicular has taken that to an all-new level where he's known for bone smashing, where he takes a hammer to his cheekbones to shape his cheeks. He references a law that I don't think really exists. It's called Wolff's Law. That says when you break a bone, it comes back stronger. But he also supposedly takes meth to suppress his appetite and takes so much steroids that he's infertile at the age of 20 years old. But he is a live streamer, and he has gotten particularly famous in, I think, the adult circles for the first time because he's the first live streamer who's like going to clubs and live streaming at clubs and drinking and doing drugs. And I think it's captured the attention of a lot of people. But I think to even understand why are we watching something like this in the first place, a lot of people listening to this might think, I don't watch live content. I don't really know where I would watch live content. How would that make its way onto my feed? The reality is we're consuming more short-form content every single year. It's sort of like our addiction as humans in the 21st century. The way that most people had been producing short-form content, whether it was iPhone user-generated content or it was, original content like the ones that we make at Gymnasium, it's not enough for our hunger for daily short-form content. And so where we're on this path towards right now is the only thing that feeds that hunger. It was two things. One is AI. The other is live streaming, because when someone's live for 8 hours at a time, there are thousands of clips that come out of that daily live stream that can attack your algorithm from thousands of different accounts, usually coming from their fans, who are probably teenagers. And so I think that we are evolving into a sort of new timeline in these short form algorithms where it might be becoming less of a space for original content and more of just how much shit can you throw at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, because there is a sense of like the algorithm is a little bit of a lottery, and the more tickets, the more stubs you have for the lottery, the better chances are that your thing's going to take off. And I think that's the most fascinating thing to me about the this live streaming culture and the live streamification of it taking over is to that point, Adam, is like, I don't think people realize that there's probably like at this point thousands of accounts who are posting thousands of clips every single day from these live streams.
Yes.
And that's the thing that I think people are like, you almost feel this sense of like doomsday, like holy shit, where is this, where does it end? And so I'm curious your thought on that as someone who has, produced and created the short form social content that has been viral for years. Where are we heading, and does it concern you that of the current state that we're at?
To answer the first part, I think we are in a post-platform world. I think the way that we still view these social media accounts, where all of us had this goal of like, we just need to grow our one account to a certain size following, because that with the blue check mark means that we've made it. And the reality is that's not how you're going to be most successful on these platforms anymore. The idea is how many accounts can you possibly have? How many pieces of content can you be uploading at the same time? You want to be able to hack into someone's feed regardless of who they are or where they are. And so I think that we all have to sort of evolve our thinking in terms of how we use these platforms in the first place. Some of the biggest live streamers, by the way, Clavicular included, who, again, if for anyone that hasn't heard of him at this point, he is on Google right now, trending as high as Timothée Chalamet and higher than Kylie Jenner. So this has broken into the mainstream. This is someone who streams daily on Kick. Kick is not Twitch. It's not YouTube. It's not the #1 destination to watch this type of content. That said, he has a core audience, I would say between 16 and probably 25,000 people that watch him on a nightly basis. Part of that audience are a clipping crowd that then immediately are clipping with the content they're consuming on these platforms. So it doesn't matter if you're watching it on Kick or not. You're probably consuming it in the form of clips on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And it's probably making its way onto its feed, even if you follow no one that has anything to do with this type of content. I think the one of the interesting ways to explain this is, like, I had the opportunity of working with iShowSpeed last fall on his like America tour, and even more recently he just did a tour in Africa where he was filming himself basically on the greatest vacation of all time, where every country he explores he gets to meet the most interesting people and do the most interesting things. Now that content has a live audience of at any point around 80,000 people live, which compared to live television is not that many people, but for live streaming it's a lot. Those 80,000 people that are watching live is enough to have enough of a clipping crowd where, on average, when he's live these days, he's generating 1 billion views a day organically. 1 billion views a day. So it's a brand new world. And I think that, we have been watching live streamers for a very long time as these kids who sort of sit in their bedrooms playing video games. IRL streaming is a whole new version of this, and I think the easiest way to understand it is almost as, these playable characters in an open world video game. But the video game that they're playing is the world that we live in. Someone was watching the speed stream when we were working on it and saying, I think the most interesting thing is that it's not that he lives in the Truman Show; it's that he turned our world into the Truman Show. And I think when you think about it, this is the highest form of reality television we've ever had. It's just real life.
It's crazy. That's the thing too. Like, you talk about another thing that is potentially problematic. Speed is an example of someone who's done a really good job of like what you said. He's on the greatest vacation ever. That's one form of reality TV. What worries me about the Clavicular side of things is that he's a playable character. He's the most problematic playable character that gets rewarded when he does something that's like negative, detrimental to society, honestly. Yeah. And that is another way, and it's like you're hacking and you're like promoting or you're encouraging people now that if you go on live stream and you break the law on live, it's probably going to go viral and you'll get 1 billion views. So you're like, holy shit, you could run into some serious issues of like some copycat kind of streamers, which to me makes it seem like I would be curious to hear your take on how brands or marketers should be getting involved with this live streaming if that's where all the attention, or where billions of views are going daily.
So I think there's two sides of this coin in terms of like where are we going from here. I think one side of it, and I watch this with Speed. Look, social media is inherently populist. You are all of us are trying to have as high of engagement as possible. We want the most likes, the most comments, the most shares. So that means you're probably going to do things that you want, that the audience wants you to do. I think there's no coincidence that we find ourselves in a populist political movement in this country for the first time in our nation's history at the same time that we're dealing with populist social media platforms. Live streaming is the highest form of populism. You're not just waiting for your video to come out to see what the comments are telling you. The comments are in your chat live, telling you if they like what you are doing or you're not doing. If Speed is doing something that his audience does not like, they're going to spam the chat with a bunch of L's, and he's going to leave the room from whatever he's doing, no matter how incredible the opportunity is, because his live audience is his ratings, and the ratings are not good for that very moment. So it's very populist. And I think in watching any of these creators, I definitely see like what the next version of our political system probably looks like. The other side of this is for anyone who has a problem with what they're watching when they're watching Clavicular. I think the reason I'm actually very interested in what this does to our culture is I think he's actually like a Frankenstein monster that the adults in the room created. This is what 20 years of social media does to a young brain that only knows a world that you should get the highest amount of engagement possible. This is the only thing he knows. He's 20, he's a child. And I think on top of that, you have now the combination of what algorithm brain does to you, on top of also 20 years of brands telling you that you're not good enough, that you need to buy certain products to make yourself look better. So I think he is just sort of this Frankenstein monster that's come to life that is like the direct representation of everything wrong with our current era in society.
Gino.
Wow.
Thoughts?
I'm blown away. I mean, this is insane for me to learn. I had a really stupid question. And if I'm thinking about it, I know our listeners are probably thinking about it too. The clippers. You said on these streams, like there's people that will clip these videos. What's the benefit to them or the AI agents? Who's doing all the clipping and creating the extra content?
So there are a few really influential clippers in this space, and they've been able to build companies that make now millions of dollars in revenue. And the reason why is that they have these Discord servers that have thousands, if not tens of thousands, of likely teenage clippers who both are interested in and are fans of the people that they are clipping. But on top of that, they're rewarded for virality. So they actually do not get paid unless they get a minimum of 1 million views on a video. And the average is around $100 per million view video. Usually what ends up happening is there's like a bounty that's placed on, say, hey, this musician has a new album coming out. We want to make this album viral on these platforms. And again, we have a $50,000 bounty available for the kids who are able to make this content viral. At this point, if anything is really dominating your feed, you should probably think that there was money spent on making that thing viral in your feed in the first place. But I will say that the average age of one of these clippers is probably around 15 or 16 years old. They're probably somewhere around the country. And I think they have a lot of free time. And again, they're interested in the content that they're clipping, but also could use some extra cash in their pocket.
It's like I saw something, I don't remember the percentage, but it was a percentage that, this is very helpful for the people watching. It was a percentage that shocked me, but a certain amount of, teenagers have a digital side hustle, which essentially to me sounds like, clipping and doing that. And it's wild to me. And I think it feels like something, Adam, that hasn't, it's a unspoken thing. Like people aren't talking about it as publicly as they should, given the impact that these clip farms or these Discord channels, the influence that they have on culture. And so it is shocking to me. Do you think that's going to change? That's my last question. That's where I'll leave it. But moving forward, do you think that this is going to be something that brands wake up to? And now these brands are going to be pushing out thousands of clippers about a new campaign that they're working on.
I think the question is, you can have 1 million kids clipping your content, but if your content can't be viral on its own, it's not going to matter how many clips you generate from it. So the question's always going to be what is the most entertaining piece of underlying content that then an audience is going to have a better time being able to clip in a very successful way. So I think it does still go back to what is the entertainment at the end of the day. The other thing is, my belief is that anytime a secret is found about how to break the algorithm, people usually do it so much that they end up making that thing not possible anymore. And so I wouldn't say that I believe that, the current system of clipping is going to continue to exist for the next 3-4 years. I think these platforms are getting pretty smart to already how to avoid some of these tricks. And so I do still think, especially in a world where you would probably know the stat better than me, Jack, but not just the percentage of kids that have side hustles, but the amount of kids that want to be content creators. When in a world where every single person on earth is creating content, which is sort of the world that we're racing towards, knowing how to tell a story and having sort of that star power to be someone that people want to watch on camera becomes the most important thing ever. And so I think this is probably where I'll leave on an optimistic note. is good storytelling matters, good entertainment matters, and that's always going to be the biggest secret to breaking the algorithm because it's just timeless. There's nothing that can really change that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Faze.
What a pleasure. That was fantastic.
Wow.
Legend.
Thank you so much.
Legend.
Thank you for having me.
Next segment, 2-minute drill, Gino. It's the ad marketing news that people need to know. We're going to go topic by topic, 2 minutes to talk about each one. Let's get straight into it. Our first story, Gino, Wieden and Eli Lilly have won the Winter Olympics. Wieden+Kennedy ad agency, Eli Lilly Pharmaceuticals, and they have a commercial that came out called Never Over. I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, let's talk about the key players here. If you're looking at some of the best ad agencies in history, Jack, Wieden+Kennedy is going to come on that list. Now, if you think about Nike and Just Do It, this was the agency that made it. I think that's good clarification for the people here. And then we look at Eli Lilly. What do they do for a living? They make prescription medicine? What are they doing creating amazing advertising, Jack? What did you think of the actual ad? Because I loved it.
I loved it. I did a glaze alert. I glazed it. I glazed it on Maine, and for good reason. And I think when you think about, especially think about pharmaceutical, think about the pharmaceutical ads where it's like you hear like the random drug name and then you get into it for 5 hours about the side effects and all that. So people have a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to pharmaceuticals. And what I love about this is they're selling the scientific method. They're selling science above all else, and they do it in a way that's so captivating. It pulls you in immediately because it doesn't look like an ad at first. It's got like it looks more like a movie. It's got archival footage. You got that guy. Like, can you try to impersonate the guy? He's
he was like.
I think that I'm talking about the narrator. It's like this old timey educational video, but. It's a major win for Wieden+Kennedy, and it's an independent agency out of Portland. You mentioned it. It feels like a Nike ad. They're dominating.
Yeah, and you know what? I haven't been watching the Olympics, Jack. I'll be honest with you, but this has broke through for me. Any other commercials from the Olympics that come top of mind?
Literally no. And I haven't even been watching the Winter Olympics, which is its own thing. I feel like the Winter Olympics, every 4 years, we just forget about the fact that we don't really watch the Winter Olympics.
And that's time.
That's 2 minutes, Gino. Next story on the 2-minute drill, 2 minutes on the clock. We got StreetEasy's campaign with Mother. This is a Gino favorite. It's all around New York. It's built for New York. Second year in a row. They're saying never leave New York. That's essentially the campaign. It's the second year in a row that they're running it. Gino, more on this.
Let's break down the key players from a fundamental standpoint. StreetEasy. If you're not living in New York City, this is your Zillow, your apartments.com. It's built just for New York City. If you're moving here, you got to get on that app to rent an apartment. Okay. Now, let's talk about the other key player here. Mother, independent agency. We talked about Wieden+Kennedy in the last 2-minute drill here, but this is just like it, right? Independent, great creative shop here. History of being amazing. You got Felix Richter, who is the CCO over in London, but the New York office here is the one that's working on this campaign. Last year, they created a campaign about the FOMO if you move out of New York City.
Never be a former New Yorker.
And then now they're bringing it back this year with a new campaign, Be a Forever New Yorker. The big thing here, Jack, what are they trying to get people to do?
They're trying to get people to buy. StreetEasy, a service, a platform that has it's ubiquitous in renting. The renter's market. If you live in New York, you rent and you find the apartment through StreetEasy. Everyone has that experience. StreetEasy saying, let's get people to buy using our platform. And they're not selling people the buy button on their app. Similar to the Wieden and Eli Lilly thing, they're selling the idea of staying in New York, a feeling, Gino.
And listen, I moved to New York. Sometimes I get a little sad living here. It's a lot of work, right? And then you see these ads when you're on the subway. And there's a lot of out of home here. When you're in the subway, you're maybe a little depressed, you're working hard, you're anxious, whatever. You look back up at those ads and you go, damn, I do want to live here. It's a campaign for the city as well, tourism, visiting.
They stick out too. I think that's a big thing. Like art direction matters a lot on these subway ads, where you have the captive audience and people are actually going to like sit down and watch it. And compared to the Jerry Seinfeld ads
or the lawyer ads,
I think it's pretty damn good.
That's our time.
That's 2 minutes, Gino. Our next story. Folgers and BBH are bringing back kind of the old Folgers jingle, Gino. This is like lives in advertising lore. I feel like the Folgers original thing. I forgot about Folgers. What was the jingle?
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. It's 100 plus years old, I believe, that jingle,
it's old as shit.
Yeah, so the key players here, you got Folgers, old as one of the oldest brands of all time, let's just say that. And then you got BBH. If you ask me what that stands for, BBH, I couldn't tell you. I think it's Bartles, Borgel, and Haggerty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're a classic agency as well. They're a part of the Publicis, the holding company structure here. So not independent like Wieden, not independent like Mother here, but they're backed by Publicis, big time company here, and they've been crushing it lately. And this is their campaign. How did they kind of bring this to life, Jack? What are people seeing?
BBH stands for Beast Ballin' Haters. How about that? How about that? What was your question? Sorry, I was focused on
What are they doing in the campaign?
Oh, well, you sang the original jingle. Now they're kind of like taking every like modern song that talks about waking up, and they're using that as like the basis for this spot, this ad, this commercial. And whether you think that the ad is like great or not, or like executed well, I think it's interesting enough to see Folgers try and like be mainstream or like get back in people's lives. The coffee scene is so crowded. Folgers owned by Smuckers, and I think BBH recently did great work. If you saw it, they Dunkin' at Home. Dunkin' at Home, people don't realize, is owned by Smuckers, not Dunkin', like the at-home coffee. And so BBH doing some great coffee work here, Gino, specifically with Smuckers.
Yeah, it was a great campaign. And remember, this conversation about independent versus holding company, it's important nowadays, and it's something that you're going to see on this show over and over again. So just want to make sure that people are getting all that. And we are at time now.
Yeah, we came in under. We came in under 2-minute drill. We got some time left to play with. We take a knee maybe for that last play that we win the 2-minute drill. Gino, last play, last drive of the 2-minute drill. Reformation is tapping in a divorce lawyer to be the face of their new collection. We're going to bring in Ellie, who is our producer here. Ellie, what's going on?
We have celebrity divorce attorney Laura Wasser, who has represented clients like Kim Kardashian, Angelina Jolie, Britney Spears, all the biggest names, all the biggest female names She's repped them in their pretty public-facing divorces. And so Reformation, the high-end retailer, the sustainable retailer, taps her to be the face of their latest campaign. They're saying divorce is in, independent womanhood is in. We love it. We love to see it. We love a strong, independent woman. And Reformation and their marketing efforts always stands out. One of my favorite campaigns I've seen this year.
And Reformation, interesting, about a year ago, they put Pete Davidson, tattooless Pete Davidson, all over New York. He was a star of that campaign.
He's so hot.
Jack has that campaign on the wall of his room. Poster.
Yes, that is. Well, how can I deny
what
it?
Are they? And what's the divorce rate nowadays? Can we get it? It's got to be over 50%, ladies and gentlemen.
I think it's still 50%.
Googling.
Ellie's going to Google that, but this one, I think the larger picture here is Reformation having, I mean, she's kind of a celebrity, but like not really, but like having someone who's not a celebrity.
Credibility, authority. They're appealing to that. I believe that's ethos.
Hey, nobody knows breakups. No, nobody knows breakups and dumping someone better than like a famous celebrity divorce attorney. So people love this, and it makes sense. And like that alone is going to do you wonders with your fans and with your customer base. So appreciate. Ellie, what was the Google search?
As of 2024, the U.S. divorce rate remains between 40 to 50% for first marriages.
And
not sure what that means.
That
for
is
second
time.
and third.
Best of luck in all your relationships. And that was the 2-minute drill. Let's move on to our next story.
For our next story, LinkedIn releases a global brand campaign. It made in partnership with McCann, New York. Jack?
Yeah, listen, LinkedIn is one of the more interesting platforms from a marketing standpoint. It's taken on such a life of its own on the social media side with more and more users, and it being kind of like this professional network. So this brand campaign, it's called The Network That Works For You. Marketing LinkedIn has to be a challenge because you have so much going on. Like it's very hard to put it into a bucket. Is it social media? Is it a recruitment site? And so the big challenge has really been faced with Jessica Jensen, who's the CMO of LinkedIn. She's been there for a little over a year, and her whole job has been around how do we create a unified message to get out to the world? And it starts really with this brand campaign. So to talk about it, who else better than CMO of LinkedIn, Jessica Jensen? She joins us now to talk more about the campaign.
All right, and now to join the show, we have Jessica Jensen, CMO of LinkedIn, to talk about the brand new brand campaign. Jessica, thank you for joining Breaking Entering today.
Oh my gosh, I love breaking and entering. Thank you so much for having us. I am a huge fan of you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We built our brand on LinkedIn. It means a lot to us. So getting into the campaign here, really excited to talk about it. I want to hear from your perspective. What was the brief to McCann, New York for your new campaign, and what was the end result? What can people see today?
Right. So, as you may be aware, since you've been such a LinkedIn Jedi, we have 1.3 billion members on the platform, over 70 million businesses, and we need to tell a coherent story to the world about how LinkedIn is the network that works for you. We work to grow your career. We work to grow your small business. We work to help creators and founders. We work for your enterprise. So we were really trying to tell a coherent story around how we help workers understand this crazy world of work, and we help you build your network, your experience, your expertise, and have a more robust and exciting career. And then also we have a small business angle to it, which is that LinkedIn is the best place to grow your small business. So we were driving those two boats in the river, if you will, with the brief, but under this umbrella of the network that works for you. And so we worked very closely with McCann on a number of spots under that umbrella, and we are thrilled that they are in market now and hopefully giving people a little bit of a chuckle as they grapple with some real world challenges, and LinkedIn has their back.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm curious then, why now for this campaign? What made you launch this at this time?
Right. I think a couple of things. I think historically LinkedIn has had a recruiting business and an ads business and, some different parts of our offering, but we have not historically done a unified message, an umbrella brand campaign that crosses both consumers and businesses. So that was very important from a brand understanding perspective. And then secondly, the world of work right now is wacky. And tons of people looking for jobs, applying for jobs, feeling frustrated. AI, what is the impact of AI? Is it eating jobs? Is it creating jobs? How do small businesses get ahead in the noise? So we really wanted to provide some clarity and some hope in a pretty challenging environment.
Yeah. And what are you hoping to achieve from this campaign? What's a win for LinkedIn as a result of this campaign?
That workers know that we are here to help them grow their experience, their expertise, their insights, and grow their careers. We are an incredibly powerful force to help workers succeed and achieve economic opportunity, which is our mission as a company, to help all workers achieve economic opportunity. So we want to land those messages with workers, and then for small businesses to help them know that they can hire the best talent, market their business, maintain their corporate identity on LinkedIn, drive sales leads. We can help you in so many different ways as a small business to grow and succeed.
JJ, if I may call you JJ.
Zach, won't you, please?
Of course. You started at LinkedIn, now it's about a year ago.
Yeah.
Come over from Indeed. What a resume, by the way. Go check out JJ's LinkedIn if you want to see what an impressive resume looks like. But I want to talk about, in that year, I imagine you step into LinkedIn. LinkedIn's obviously a much different platform than Indeed. Yeah. And I think LinkedIn, just in the course of time since I've been on the platform, it's changed so much. And it's, much more of a social media platform than it was even 5 years ago. So just that when you stepped in at LinkedIn in the last year, imagine a big part of it is like, we got to identify ourselves because it's just changed so much. So how did you think about that when you first stepped into to LinkedIn versus where it's at now?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think, we've always been a social network and the largest social network of workers. But you're quite right that we have 4 different business lines, and helping the world understand what value LinkedIn provides to them as workers, as business leaders. We support governments and policymakers. So needing to clarify that position has been really important. And then also, I think, in the world of AI slop and tomfoolery, a platform that is based on real people who use their real name and put their professional reputation on the line on LinkedIn is pretty valuable, right? Like, we need people to represent themselves as themselves. And we're one of the few platforms where that is true. And as a result, I think people feel safer here. They feel like they engage with real people's ideas and experience. And so helping to people to understand that and grow that awareness is super important.
I like a little. We engage in a little tomfoolery, Jack.
Yeah, of course. It's playful though, JJ. I mean, you'd have to agree with that.
I'm not opposed to tomfoolery in the right context. And
breaking news.
For example, that is one. And there's some tomfoolery in our new ad spots, so don't count us out.
Don't count out JJ for some tomfoolery. And because I do appreciate that, and I think we've built most of our brand really got started from LinkedIn, and a big reason is because you have an audience and you can see the titles, and like you can really identify with the audience as a content creator, and people use it as like a sales lead business as well, and I think it's great for that too. But you talked a little bit about a lot of other platforms are more susceptible to like a bot account or like an AI account. I'm curious on your thoughts or LinkedIn's thoughts around people using AI with their content, because I think like this is becoming such a thing now.
Totally.
I know the head of Instagram just had a lot to say around the fact that like it's going to be easier, in his opinion, to identify real content as opposed to like AI content as it advances. So I'm just curious how LinkedIn is approaching that, because I for me personally, I don't see much of an issue with AI like supporting your writing, but then it gets to a point where it's like, okay, this person clearly just prompted AI and just copy and pasted 7 paragraphs. So just all that to say, what's your reaction to as AI content continues to be a thing?
I mean, listen, I think totally agree with you. I think AI is a super important writing aid, and I use it for editing and ideation, and I think a lot of people use it very effectively that way. But the human judgment and the pen, so to speak, the mental pen, will reign supreme. And so we are doing a lot we're watermarking AI images on LinkedIn. We are working in our algorithms to favor directly written, human written content over AI generated content. We are also working on moderating and reducing AI commenting. There is definitely an AI spam commenting thing going on that we are working against. So again, I think AI has marvelous uses, and we are using it to our advantage in our marketing enormously, but we must focus on human edited, human thought, human creativity, and ensuring that is what shines through on LinkedIn for sure.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I just think it's such a unique platform where people who are very much at the top of their careers, executives, are going to LinkedIn to share their thoughts. They're not necessarily going to other platforms. It feels like that's kind of the place. And it kind of lends itself to, the moving forward, especially around the time of this campaign, and really identifying LinkedIn as a social media platform and beyond. The thought around like creators on LinkedIn, like I think there's been such a push of like incentivizing creators and like payouts and creator studios and all of this. And I was going back and forth on this last night, Gino.
What do you got,
Of
Jack?
what I would do in this situation. Of course, I put myself in JJ's shoes, but in LinkedIn shoes. But how is LinkedIn thinking about creators now, especially as there's more of like the quote LinkedIn influencers?
Yeah, thanks. Creators are super critical on LinkedIn, and we, ensuring that the best voices like you guys are getting, the traction you need, building audiences, and getting your messages out is like core to LinkedIn. I think we have about 4 million people now who are dedicated creators on LinkedIn. So it is a massive, massive part of our platform. And we have a program called Brand Link, where we work with advertisers to match and support top voice creators and to get their brands paired with those creators, and it's been enormously successful for a lot of our brand and advertiser partners as well as the creators. We are always, as every social platform does, always improving our algorithm and our features, and we have a couple things in the hopper on the creator front, so stay tuned. But it's a massive part of our business now, and as you said, 95% of Fortune CEOs use LinkedIn as their primary platform, and we're seeing CFOs doing earnings posts, product leaders launching videos, maybe an occasional marketer, maybe even, promotes something on the platform. I can't imagine who. So, executives are creators. And they're realizing the currency that gives to their brand, particularly in a world of AI where there's a lot of fake junk. So here, having executives share their perspectives and learnings and voices on LinkedIn is kind of some brand magic that a lot of companies are figuring out.
Yeah, I know. It's such a bit. I feel like that's my number one thing. I always am like, you gotta be posting on LinkedIn, even if like you're an early career person. And I feel like you say this all the time, Gino. Like just posting about the work that you're doing is such I feel like it's such a great, puts you at such an advantage to be able to put your work out there to an audience and a network that cares. You
post your work on your LinkedIn profile that you're building and that you're excited about. So it is for 20-somethings, 30-somethings, like put your thoughts out, put your work out, create things and share them. Because we're looking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm scrolling. Listen, we're scrolling. I'm on the feed. I'm active. JJ, you know this better than anyone.
I'm following you, man. I know.
I would say we're very humble and grateful to have had you on the show.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. I honestly, I will do, this is outside the context of this video, I will do anything I can to support you and what you're building, because your take on things is like real and funny and spot on, and there's so much junk out there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So keep going.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And yeah, very, very excited. You're just getting started, it feels like, JJ, at LinkedIn CMO. So congrats on this. Yeah, that move right there, I think we can all, for JJ with a whoop whoop.
I'm Jessica Jensen. I'm the CMO of LinkedIn, and you're watching the best place for marketing and ads news, breaking and entering.
That's good. Money, a natural, everyone. Jessica Jensen, thank you so much for joining the show. Okay, nice.
Nicely done.
Speaking of CMOs, our next story, Adweek, Gino put out an article titled, AI isn't cutting marketing jobs, but it is making them harder. And I quote, according to proprietary data prepared for Adweek by research firm Newton X, most organizations report little to no AI-driven headcount reduction. At the same time, a majority of marketers say their day-to-day responsibilities have shifted with expectations rising around speed, complexity, and output. That's Mark Stenberg from Adweek. And so, to talk about this, we have the digital prophet coming in to speak on it, the CMO whisperer, to give a little bit of a CMO State of the Union. David Shing, a.k.a. Shingy, joins us. Last week, he spent time with 30 different CMOs, learning, understanding what's going on. Nobody better to speak on the pulse of the state of marketing coming in to an AI world than Shingy. Let's kick it over and let's talk with Shingy about this.
David Shing, thanks for joining.
Hey guys, what's up?
Not much, just chilling. Shingy, I think I want to start, like, we hear there's like countless articles and discussion around what the CMO, what the marketer is facing today. I kind of want to get your reaction, maybe a little bit of a state of the union of the CMO, of the marketer, based on everything that you're doing, because you're actually talking to these people. It's not a research report. Like, you're spending time with these people. So just want to give the floor to you, a little state of the union from Shingy.
I think that and thanks for that, guys. It's great to see you again, and welcome to your new office. I see it's very, very adult. Well done. But look, a couple of things I just want to give you a heads up on. There's no chief marketing officer anymore. It's like the chief matrix observer. It's a very interesting time, spiritually, politically, physically, just for people generally. And imagine owning brands. So what's interesting for me is at the beginning of the year, I get to sit with a bunch of CMOs to see what's going on and just ask them some very direct questions about the state of the union as they see it. And not about more macro than just, the tactics, but real simple stuff like whose budget's going up, raise your hands. Whose budget, or who's been asked to do more with less, what does that look like? And you determine what that means. It could be headcount, it could be budget, you need to figure that out. And then the last question is who's launching something unique? And I get very few hands in there launching something unique. There's something about when things feel like they're a bit sensitive, being bold and launching new products essentially might be on the back burner while they're trying to make the other things efficient. So they're the three macro things that I'm seeing. And then on the micro part of that, it's the fine dance and balance between how do I make sure that this spectrum of AI right at this very corner of the screen and right at this very corner of the screen is creators, and somewhere in the middle is this thing called marketing. And they're trying to figure out what that means because they're told to do it everywhere, all at once, with all this efficiency. And they're trying to figure out what those two spectrums look like, as well as trying to figure out what their bit in the middle is. So there's this kind of balancing between how do I do both of these things, which are always in the zeitgeist of the conversation, but actually do things that actually make my brand move forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder, do you think that phenomenon that you're talking about, bridging AI and creative, have you seen anything similar? I think people always make the comparison to the internet and the dawn of that. But I'm just curious, with your experience, is there anything that you're drawing back on experience-wise to bring as like advice or thoughtful conversations with CMOs?
Jack, thanks for that question because, I have seen Web 1. I was there for the early days of this stuff when Silicon Alley was just being formed versus Silicon Valley and all that sort of rubbish, which was really a moment of excitement. So everybody wanted to create this thing called community, and what's amazing is that's what people really want to do now. So if we had this discussion 12 months ago, I would have said, yeah, it feels like we were back at the dawn of the internet because everything can be created. But the truth is this, none of the tools that we're seeing today are necessarily new. They're just being accelerated, and the refinement of those tools at like breakneck speed. It's almost going from oldest freehand, you can look that up on the internet later, all the way to something as crazy and easy as Canva, but all happening within the space of 6 months, not 25 years. And that's really what's unique. And what I find fascinating is it feels different than the dawn of the internet, because if it was the dawn of the internet times, shouldn't we be doing a lot more radical things in a lot more radical places? And the question I have for others after I ask those three questions is, can you tell me the last 3 apps you downloaded? And rarely I get anybody saying, oh, I downloaded this app because. It's kind of like, I downloaded this utility because this app needed me to have that utility. And I've used it once and I'm not going back to it. So habits have already been formed, and where we feel like it's super open, it's not become more narrow. So people are spending time and spending effort on their brand in some very narrow places, which also tells me that niche is pretty wild. So I've been saying for years that niche is the new mass, but I'm actually seeing that happen now, because if you go to Reddit today, you don't go to the homepage, you go to a subreddit. If you go into TikTok, you don't hang out in TikTok, you hang out in channels. If we were to go into discourse, you're not going to discourse, you go into Discord channels. So we're going to these places of communities. But what's fascinating to me is that, when you're thinking about brand architecture, people are just thinking about where they need to put their placement. So the two things that we've talked about for forever, I'm using a lot of the edges of the screen at the moment because I hope the middle will actually attach itself at some point. But people are talking a lot about media, like where am I placing? What am I doing? If we had this discussion 20 years ago, we would have talked about blind networks, and we would have talked about ad buying when you don't know where the ad is being placed, but you're buying on audiences. And then over here, they're saying, I really need to buy on these brands because I'm told that these brands are where my audiences are. And in the middle is the rest of the internet. And what's interesting about that today, it's no different. The only difference is brands are trying to call out that mystery, which is where the margin is, because now if I can have good sets of data that are super clean, and I have really good relationship with my agencies, for example, and I know exactly where they're spending their time and what tools they're using to do that, then that efficiency should allow me to optimize. So that's a bit different. Does that help answer your question? Does that provide any?
Yeah. I mean, I think what you said that really stuck to me there is the mystery is in, or the margin is in the mystery.
Yes.
To me, and that almost like lends itself to even what you're talking about, this idea of letting love rule, the mystery and like taking those bold actions and doing something new and not falling back onto what's comfortable. Is that where the margin is? Am I getting there with the idea of the mystery, and that's where the margin is?
Yeah, brother, because at the end of the day, and thanks for hitting on that, rule for me, it's created an interesting groundswell, particularly when somebody said, one of my points was, I think that optimization is what we've sort of played for, but love actually polarizes. And what I mean by that is that you don't have to be loved by everybody, but boy, it feels good when you do. And we're in a world where it feels like it's love or hate. To be liked is to be invisible, in my mind. And so when I think about that, the optimization of efficient creative, the optimization of make more with less, the optimization of sure this can be done quicker, all of those things to me say that we're just in this world of optimization. We're not in the world of harmonizing. We're not in the world of actually creating something that feels like it has longevity. It almost feels like stunts, and that's where I think we're at a different place. You did a tour of the West Coast with a bunch of these incredible agencies and some of these people that made some of the most iconic work that we've ever seen. Their brief at the time was, how do you actually create momentum? How do you create momentum for these brands that are relatively new? How do you create things that sustain? How do you burn into somebody's memory bank that when they're going to choose A or B, how do they make a decision to make A? All of that would have just been, well, wouldn't love be the thing that you want? I want somebody to say, I love that brand, dude. I just love that idea. And it feels like we've dulled it down. We've taken the shiny off. Because what happens when you create optimization and efficiency, this is coming from a data point of one, but I see it everywhere. And I love how close AI is getting to sort of realistic movie making and all of those amazing things about digital avatars and personas. Love that. Love that for many reasons of efficiency. But I don't love that when you're trying to build a brand that people really want to love, because what happens to me, if you apply that to music, you end up with this synthetic music. And so what happens is there's just something about it that makes me feel like it's starting to flatten out. And when it starts to flatten out, things start to look similar, man. We all start to be even again. And at some point, if the floor's being raised because of these incredible tools, the ceiling has to be something unique, dude. And that's where I find it to be more like the old days when we talked about the retroness of Web 1 that you wanted to maybe link at. But creatively, I just don't think we're there because we're still held by the usual KPIs that brands are looking for.
So I'm curious then, of all the brands that you're noticing today that are sticking out, what's a brand that's doing the right things? Potentially has less budget, whatever it might be, they're sticking out in your mind, they're developing that love for you, Shingy.
Yeah, there's a couple that are pretty obvious. Gino, if I was to sort of dig into the things that come top of mind, it would be, somebody asked me recently, what's your favorite piece of branded content? And my answer to that is the Lego movie, the original Lego movie. I mean, I spent $20 having Lego show me their product for 2 hours, for God's sake. I mean, that's nuts. I didn't even have a kiddo at the time. So this is one example, but that's Lego, right? And they also moved from bricks to entertainment at a really hard time for their brand. So that's a whole nother story for another time, which I'm sure you know. But that's pretty obvious to me. But if I let's talk about brands that are probably less obvious, that do sort of have these incredible story about love, in my mind. Baggu is a really good example of a brand that goes upcycling plastics into a shopping bag that has moved into great collabs. A24 have moved into, it's not about films, it's about cult stories, which I think is pretty amazing. Gentle Monster, as somebody who wears goggles all day, every day, I look at them and think, I don't go to them because they sell groovy goggles, they just don't. They sell atmosphere. You go into their store and every couple of weeks the thing radically changes. It's like, my God, what is happening here? So a lot of these are around experiences. Like, what does the product do that makes you feel like you can experience this brand in a way that's really interesting? And I would say, this is really niche. You know Fishwife? You know that brand? It's a sardine brand. So I'm a design freak, guys, so if you didn't know that already. But you know, the whole sardine tin phenomenon's taken off.
Yeah.
And if you look at Fishwife, oh my God. The design element, the colors. I mean, I will just buy that thing off the shelf just because, and then find out it's stinking sardines. You know what I mean? I mean, there's something about just that boldness where it just feels like it's different. And and look, the obvious other ones are, I wrote about Lego recently doing a collab with Crocs. I'll probably never wear these things, but they're a big rectangular shoe, and you think, oh my God, you're walking around with a Lego brick. It couldn't be more obvious, but how incredible. If you look at the unbranded stuff that Heinz do, that's quietly happening in the background, and it's not just ketchup, but they also do it with Hillman's. Like, they just do these interesting products that feel like, hey, try this on. And if it sticks, it's like, let's do more of that trying on. And maybe we should do this. And so it feels like there's permission to do these little experiments to see if they take, and then they end up being a product.
Right. I just love the idea of Shingy just being like appalled or just so excited about the Lego movie. In the it's such a good movie. The one time when I watched it, I was very hesitant to watch the Lego movie because you're just like, oh, am I actually gonna? And then you get to the end and you're like, that was one of the best pieces of film. It moved me in a way that I never thought that Legos could move me. And I'm glad that me and you're on the same page on that one, Shingy.
See, now we can go watch a film together. I'll talk about just some other brands that's probably not something I wouldn't closely align with, like Pop Mart. I'm not really a big fan of the little tchotchkes. But talk about driving anticipation. I mean, these guys have been at it for a long time, and they get lines and lines and lines around the block, which I think is pretty amazing. So you look at somebody like Pop Mart, which is nuts, and then you've got Topo Chico. So I live in Mexico. And you got Topo Chico. Man, I didn't even know what this brand was. It looks like a brand from 100 years ago. It's owned by one of the big bottlers. It's probably owned by Coca-Cola now or somebody like that. But it looks like it's got this mystique to it. It's got all of this symbolism in the actual bottle label, and the bottle is glass. So it kind of makes you want to collect it, and it stands out from this fast-moving culture, priced at the same products. So it's almost like with this array of everything and more is more, where is my choice going? What do I go for? And it aligns with something that sort of is a baseline of experimentation. It drives anticipation, and it gives you this mystique. It's like, oh, I'm curious. Curious about sparkling water, for God's sake.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
It is great. Topo Chico is a really, they have a great design. But Shingy, thank you so much for the time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for everything.
Gentlemen.
And I'm sure we'll have you on again very soon. That was the digital prophet himself. Thank you. All right, our next segment, holding company updates. Holding companies still run the advertising landscape, Gino. They're in a moment of transition, and there's a couple stories here that are pretty interesting to note. First one, McCann, owned by Omnicom, one of the major holding companies. McCann wins Kroger as the U.S. creative agency of record. Gino, more on this from you.
That's right, Jack. Well, we have to understand who Kroger was working with before, because everybody needs a creative ad agency, right, Jack?
That's right, Gino.
So they were working with DDB. Historic agency, no longer a thing, ladies and gentlemen. Due to the Omnicom and IPG merger, DDB gets folded into TBWA. DDB no longer exists, ladies and gentlemen. So when DDB is gone, Kroger needs to decide, where are we going to go for our next agency? So the big question here was who? And it was a competitive pitch, Jack, and McCann won it. Why is this important? Let's break that down.
Yeah, let's go. Let's fucking break it down. Because McCann also owned, like I mentioned, also owned by Omnicom. So the fear when the Omnicom IPG merger is happening, you worry if you're in that world, if a brand, if your creative partner, if they're going to jump ship. If a Kroger gets spooked about the idea of all this restructuring going on, clearly Omnicom, McCann is able to tell a story and able to paint a picture that maintain that trust from Kroger to keep them in an Omnicom agency.
I mean, think about it, Jack. All these agencies must have been flooding in to win this business. From Publicis, from Havas perhaps. I don't know on the record which ones. And then you got independent shops.
That's right.
That are going to be coming in, trying their hand at winning this business. And for McCann to win it, that's a big win for the Omnicom-owned shop.
And that brings us into our next story, Publicis. In 2025, according to Ad Age, great reporting by our guy Brian Bonilla, Publicis won twice as many new business pitches in 2025 as WPP or Omnicom. Twice as many new business pitches as WPP or Omnicom, Gino. Publicis.
Yeah. No, it's not shocking to me, Jack, because you had the Omnicom IPG merger looming in the background for all of 2025. So I can imagine that no clients really want to select them in that transition period, Jack. So that makes sense to me there. And WPP, do you have any line of sight in your preparation, in your notes on WPP and how they've been? the past year?
Well, they are going through a bit of restructuring themselves in the form of leadership, particularly if you think about hiring Sydney Rose. And WPP has really been through the ringer when it comes to their stock price in the last year, more so than even other holding companies significantly. So they're also in the position where they're going through a transformation to try and turn things around. And you add up both those things, and you add in the fact that Publicis they are on a heater. They're kind of circling the waters. Everyone else is kind of restructuring, trying to figure things out that Publicis, to be honest, really figured out a long time ago, and they're taking advantage of that.
Yeah, years and years and years ago, I would say 2017, 2018 is when they first established like their power of one model, and then also investing in AI for communications across all their employees, and then the purchase of Epsilon a couple years later. Owning that data, bringing that data in-house was a big win for Arthur Sedone, who's the chairman, CEO, whatever you want to call him, the boss at Publicis.
People at the time thought that purchase of Epsilon was insane. I think there's a lot of talk about you're overpaying. It's a crazy move, but it's clearly paying its whatever the fuck the saying is, paying it's not paying its dues. What are we reaping the
seeds.
That's right. They're reaping the seeds.
And it helps the creative agencies.
Yeah.
Like when they have that data, they have all this like backing it up. All these creative agencies within Publicis are able to crush.
And our last story, we are kicking over. Speaking of agency life, our last story is about motherhood in agency land, Gino. There is an op-ed that we read earlier this week from Katie Jensen, who is an ECD at TBWA Chiat Day, and it's titled, "Why Agencies Are Making Women Fearful of Maternity Leave and Why We Must Advocate for Mothers."
Jack, she talks about in this article that 10 years ago, she returned from mat leave and her desk was taken. Her desk was replaced, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the fear is today, if women take maternity leave, it's not that their desk is going to get replaced, it's that their entire career might get replaced, Jack.
That's right.
So she'll touch upon this.
Yeah, so let's bring in Katie Jensen, ECD at TBWA, to talk about her op-ed that has really taken LinkedIn by storm. So bring her in, Katie Jensen. Katie Jensen, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Great. I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of what you're doing over there, so this is awesome.
Appreciate it. And big fan of your recent adage op-ed. A lot of people are talking about it. It's titled, "Why Agencies Are Making Women Fearful of Maternity Leave and Why We Must Advocate for Mothers." We saw this pick up a lot of traction, and I think it's something that Gino and I, obviously, from where we stand, would love to just be able to talk more about it. Katie, talk about what your experience has been, your perspective, and then hopefully have a constructive conversation about how we can continue to move the industry forward in a way that's positive.
Great. Thank you.
So I'll start there. Katie, let's just maybe walk through, for those that maybe haven't read it, your perspective and what you talked about.
For sure. Well, I wrote this because I kind of noticed something going on in the industry. I'm obviously a mom. I have a 10-year-old, and that's a big part of who I am, my identity. It's also made me a better creative, honestly. And I've noticed that a lot of women are doing this kind of quiet calculation on whether or not they can step away from their jobs to have a baby. And, that kind of breaks my heart. And I've seen it since, since I was even a junior. Some of my mentors that I've had who have weighed whether or not they should have kids. But I think, there's something about the industry now and, the age of restructuring and everything that's going on that, it feels like things are just a little harder right now, and people aren't really talking about this very openly, that, this decision to step away and have a kid, like it's, 10 years ago when I had my daughter, it was a matter of, I told this story where when I came back, there was not a seat for me in the agency anymore, and that was very difficult. But now it could be a matter of, coming back and you might not have a job or your role might have changed. And I think that is causing women to either not want to have a second child or not want to have a child at all. And that's just frankly something that breaks my heart, and I want to change about the industry. So, as a creative, I often think, how can I use creativity to talk about women's issues or whatever it might be? And this just felt like, maybe an op-ed was a great place to start. So I'm glad it gained some traction. And if anything, it gave people, a chance to say what they were feeling out loud.
I'm curious about this calculation that you mentioned that, you might have had to go through and women are going through today. What goes into that calculation on, what goes into the calculation of having a child, like especially today with the age of restructuring, like you mentioned?
Well, I feel like there's this myth about if you step away, that that break will ruin everything, and it's really, that's not it. Careers are long. People change roles, they change, agencies, industries, but stepping away is just that. You step away for a moment and then you come back. But I think, in this time where, again, I've seen people come back and they don't have jobs, or they come back and their job is different, there is a calculation that you do that, okay, if I step away for whatever it might be, 2 to 3 months, my role might not be there when I come back. And it's just something that, unfortunately, we have to deal with as women. So I'm trying to normalize that conversation a little bit more, so maybe that makes some structural changes. So that's the calculation.
Got it.
Yeah, it is, obviously I can't say that I've experienced this, but I can at least try to understand the feeling of just stepping away at all for this and having to come back and not be certain. So you just asked the question, or I would ask the question, like, what do you think, like, have you seen any sort of like success stories, or in your opinion, what do you think like would be a good step forward to making it so that women feel advocated for it? So it's not just enough to say like you'll be okay, but I think you have to go past that point and say like we want to advocate so that women feel like they not only can have children but are supported to have children. So I'm just curious from your standpoint, like what your reaction to all that is.
I think the thing about it, I think if, senior women are parents and they're thriving, like myself, I don't know if I'm thriving, but, I'm doing it and I'm working hard and I'm successful. I think maybe younger women can stop assuming that motherhood equals career death. So I think that's the start. It's just more women doing it and saying, hey, you can have it all. You can do both. It's hard as hell, but like you can do it. So I think that's a big part of it. I also think it's like, massive structural changes need to happen. It's like, things like, well, and also it can be smaller things too. Let me start there. It might just be like, tell your team that it's safe when they go on leave, that they will have, a job when they come back. Maybe it's a reentry plan, just simple things like that like tell women that it is okay to step away. And I think also it's just like not assuming that ambition disappears when someone becomes a parent. It's really like asking them what they want next. So I think it's small changes like that can lead to large structural changes. Not sure that answered your question, but I had a lot to say about that topic.
Do you think when mothers get back from maternity leave that they're evaluated differently when they're back in the office? Or are we over that? Can you give me some understanding there?
I think potentially. I think what I will say about that is any woman that I've seen comes back better, because there's just a shift in you as a mom where you come back and your priorities are within that 8 hours of the day. You show up, and that is time away from your kid. So in that moment, you have to be better. You have to be quicker. You have to, you go all in during those 8 hours. So I try to instead look at, are they looked at differently to just assuming they are better? And I tell every woman who around me who, confides in me that they're pregnant or whatever it might be, I say, you are going to be better when you come back because you're going to be faster and you're just going to know your priorities. So I try to look at it that way. But yeah, I do think there's a little bit of a stigma around, is she going to have to leave early, whatever it might be. But also, fuck it, just have the baby. Like I said in the op-ed, just have the baby because you have to. Life is too short.
Love it. Yeah, and it starts, to your point, it's the little things that are actually big things, though, but having conversations and feeling like it's something that you can communicate. And so kudos to you, Katie, for probably inspiring and liberating a lot of people, potential mothers, to have these conversations in agency offices. So kudos to you, Katie. And I always appreciate the mantra of fuck it. So that's another thing I'll add.
Thank you. And thank you both for having me on, because it amplifies the message even more. So I really appreciate it. And I thank you for taking an interest in it. It's a big deal to me and to a lot of women. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you again, Katie. That was Katie Jensen joining the show. Appreciate you. And we'll be in touch soon. That's the show. That's marketing news. One last thing before you go, Gino, I got my eye on something. I wanted to bring it up. I didn't tell anyone I was going to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up now. This just came across my desk. Charles Porch is leaving Instagram as the head of creative partnerships to head to OpenAI to do something similar. Charles Porch is credited with getting celebrities to Instagram. He onboarded Pope Francis on Instagram, and he helped Beyonce figure out how to launch her album on Instagram and social media. He said, quote, threading the needle between culture and tech. That is his remit. So what do you think on that? Instant reaction, OpenAI getting into celebrities.
Listen. If that $1 million signing bonus came in, like I've heard for some of those engineers, Jack, I don't blame this guy one bit.
Oh, they definitely threw the bag at him. They're trying, it's OpenAI. They're trying to popularize, celebrityify OpenAI, make it mainstream as possible.
Does this have anything to do with them implementing ads in the platform? Will he be working in that realm at all?
No, to me, he's kind of just like a hype beast kind of thing, where like you're just like a creative director almost.
Well, you might see some ads for Beyonce's next album when you're searching up music that I should listen to relax.
That's right. That was something I had my eye on. You all should have your eye on it too. And that is the show. Gino, any last words for the people?
No, appreciate you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.